When people hear the name Clark Hunt, most immediately think about the success of the Kansas City Chiefs and the championships the team has won in recent years. But behind the trophies, the big games, and the global spotlight, there's a much more personal story that many fans are only now starting to notice. And that story is about his family, especially his 3 children. Because while Clark Hunt is known as one of the most powerful figures in the NFL, at home he is simply a father to his daughters Grace and Ava and his son Knobel. And once fans began learning more about his family life, the story suddenly felt much more human and much more emotional. Because instead of just seeing a billionaire team owner on the sidelines, people started seeing someone who built a family alongside his career. And according to reliable reports, Clark Hunt and his wife have raised 3 children who have each grown up in completely different ways, with different personalities, different interests, and different levels of public attention. And that's exactly what makes this story so interesting to fans. Because while the Chiefs continue to dominate headlines with wins and championships, his children have quietly grown up in the background. And now people are finally starting to notice them, especially his eldest daughter Grace, who has become one of the most recognizable faces connected to the team. And as more photos and appearances started going viral online, fans quickly realized that there's much more to the Hunt family story than just football success. Because behind every big moment on the field, there's also a private family story that most people never get to see. Looking deeper into his family life, the story becomes even more interesting. Because Clark Hunt and his wife didn't just raise children who stayed completely away from the spotlight. Instead, each of them has followed their own path in a way that reflects both the pressure and the privilege of growing up in a famous sports family. And according to recent profiles, the eldest daughter Grace has become especially popular among fans, not only because she supports the team publicly but also because she has built her own identity through social media, charity work, and public appearances, which has made her one of the most talked about family members connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. And fans often say that she represents the next generation of the Hunt family in a very modern way, while his son Knobel has taken a completely different approach by keeping a much lower profile and focusing more on studies and sports behind the scenes. And then there's Ava, the youngest member of the family, who has also started attracting attention as she grows older, especially after appearing at games and family events. And what really makes this story stand out is how different all 3 children are from each other. Because instead of following exactly the same path, they've each created their own identity while still staying close as a family. And that balance between privacy and public attention is something fans find incredibly fascinating, because it shows what life is really like for the children of someone who owns one of the most successful teams in professional sports. As more information about his family continues to spread online, one thing becomes very clear. The reason people are so interested in Clark Hunt's children isn't just curiosity, it's the emotional side of the story that makes it feel relatable. Because even though he is a billionaire and one of the most powerful figures in the NFL, the idea of raising children, supporting them, and watching them grow into adults is something that millions of people can understand. And when fans look at stories like this, they often realize that behind every successful team owner there is still a personal life that most people never fully see. And that's exactly why this topic keeps trending again and again. Because it shows a completely different side of someone who is usually only seen during games and major events. And whether it's Grace gaining popularity online, Knobel quietly building his own future, or Ava growing up in the public eye, the story of Clark Hunt's 3 children continues to attract attention because it feels real, emotional, and surprisingly relatable. And in the end, while fans may remember him for championships and football success, the people who matter most to him will always be his family, his daughters Grace and Ava, his son Knobel, and the life he built away from the stadium. And that's exactly what makes this story so powerful to viewers who want to see the human side of someone they usually only see on the sidelines during the biggest games in the world.